Hi, folks. If you hear it in the background, that's Cuddles purring, Mr. Cuddles. Um, After that last live journal, I think I might hold off a wee bit on doing another. I mean, it came out all right, and I don't mind being transparent with you. That's my intent. I mean, those who love and follow truth, truth is good enough, unvarnished, just like it is. It's just that I'm just feeling awkward again, as usual, um, with all the changes. And so I've got a couple of journals from the 5th, 7-5, that I'll share with you. Again, we're in solar storm. Now, today is the 16th of July, and actually, yesterday, the 15th of July, if the Mayan calendar had a January 1st, first day of the year, yesterday was it, because it was the first sun sign, which is crocodile, and it was the number one. So that 1-1 only comes around, gosh, I think it's every 260 days. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 360. But anyway, that was kind of like the start of a cycle. But with them, as with nature, I think, it's spiral, it's cyclical, it's not linear. Time doesn't go in a line past, present, future, it cycles around. So, let's see. So, this is the first journal from 7-5, and that day was for monkey. When will we turn to ourself, calling upon the higher self instead of turning always to others when in search of wisdom and knowledge? And trust me, I write this to me, all right? I find myself doing this quite a lot, so I watch and wonder, how about you? Do you observe self doing this? Why don't we have any faith in the self? Or a culture that turns deeply inward rather than just checking out the conscious mind at the surface, amounting to no more than 10 or 20% of the whole. And that's just the whole of what we are in 3D. No way the whole of what we are. So, but do we think we will find in others? Why do we think we are lacking that? We know we're all one. That would be a good place to start in restructuring our beliefs to place less trust in the world. Only self and source are worthy of trust. Yet, as I observe, I find myself, I keep looking out there. Things that make you go, Now, I do have one great improvement to report, which I'm sure most of us are noticing in self by now, in our march toward the great shift. Rather than just taking someone else for an authority and simply trusting what they say, well, I haven't done that for a while. Instead, I run all things by heart, or inner self first, sometimes even by source. If the info doesn't pass that resonance test, it's out. And the speaker may be as well, though not usually. No sense in being a perfectionist. Once upon a time, I would have completely turned away from a knowledge source if I discovered an untruth or significant inaccuracy. These days, I feel I'm wiser, having realized that not one of us is perfect. And to hold anyone to such a standard, well, it's mechanical and immature. So, what does this indicate? Well, several things. First, it shows less fear or insecurity. Where I once would not trust myself to be able to assess someone else's work, knowing it had false mixed in with the true, now I have less concern with that. Oh, cat fur, if I get too cuddly with them, it drives my nose nuts. There's more trust in the self, in higher self, and its ability to sort things out. Now, this isn't something I noticed up front. Instead, it came from observing and the beauty of hindsight to reveal self to self. I was quite unaware of my prior insecurity or fear to trust my ability to sort through mixed data, false and true. I would have denied having any fear had someone broached it to me. I was blind or just asleep to it. Such are the gifts that steady observation provides. Now, I've had new disappointments in self lately as well. During this last heavy cycle, out of which I'm beginning to emerge, I was given increased clarity to see how much more in mind I had been than I thought myself. So, on the one hand, I was underconfident, and on the other, overconfident. Interesting how that works out. Well, just so there's overall balanced, I'll be happy, no matter the outcome. Even though it may disappoint you, even deeply at times, it's very important to be willing to see your shortcomings or faults, supposed faults. These are precious gifts, these revelations. Without them, we'd likely be stuck who knows how many years trying to figure things out on our own. Or like some, trying to positive think our way out. Not so good, certainly not balanced, so I'd say no thanks. If you find yourself newly willing to entertain thoughts on your perceived lacks or shortcomings, do look at that. I suggest you may be seeing the results of some dissolving of ego in process there. Ego is arrogant and too full of itself to entertain any perception of fault or lack. When shown such things, it will reject them or give an emotional response. Anything but the lovely, calm way you're likely viewing such things today. I like to remember that we are not the best observers of self. No one is. Others are much better able to spot changes in us, likely because they're less involved, less identified with the issues than we are. They have that distance that enhances clarity of view. Likewise, we are more reliable of others for the same reasons, distance lending clarity to the view. Well, fine. Let's learn from this and take it up a notch. Let us cultivate this distance, which amounts to the observer posture or perspective as we view the self. Let's continue to pull back from being so very interested, so deeply involved in the inner machinations of things. That brings no benefit and significantly shortens the view. It leaves us too short-sighted to make good decisions. In working this way internally, I see us cooperating with the overall rise in frequencies, carrying us up into higher consciousness. We're not quite being given a free ride, but we're mightily assisted in taking all things up a notch. If we'll just back off to get the clearer view and then simply cooperate with the overall flow, we'll find things going much better overall. What say you? Do you agree? Or how do you see it? Maybe rather than being disappointed in noting how much I'm in mind, I'd do better to look for the melding of mind and heart that some promote. I do consider this, but that view somehow always comes up short for me. There is simply no room in the heart flow for mind, 3D mind, to enter in, make decisions, or run things. It can be called on to provide support or information, but no decision making. Heart has the superior intelligence. And lest that sound entirely too strange to you, Do consider the established fact that the body's heart has been found to produce brain chemicals, neurotransmitters. The Heart Math Institute spearheads much worldwide science into the heart's connection to thought and the brain. They contend, and I agree, that heart and mind were meant to work much more closely together than they do in our typical left brain focused orientation. Have you noticed any falling away of ego or aspects of that lately? Perhaps you've seen things that you just didn't evaluate that way, but that would fit. Do have a look. It can be a real blessing since it makes it that much easier to look at the seemingly negative things that will be shown about the self. As frequencies rise, any negativity will eventually be spun out or thrown off. It can't keep up with the vibe, so to speak. It vibrates too low, too slow. Yet, it's a tremendous gift to be shown something negative about the self. Be in heart and hear this. Consider that whatever this thing is, it's likely visible to others anyway, so wouldn't you rather know about it than not? What we can't see, we can't do anything about. What we are blind to doesn't develop and grow as it could were we simply aware of it. So that awareness actually is a gift. It's all in your angle of view, your flexible perspective. Now, considering the current male-oriented structure of our society, and that's what all that left brain stuff is, this will be hardest on the men. Our culture is shifting, beginning to allow men the right to just be instead of insistently stuffing them into these old macho roles with all the weight of responsibility and pressure those entail. As women know, not allowing yourself to have a good cry now and then is psychologically and emotionally unhealthy. It stunts your growth. I'd like to see us moving toward a more gender-neutral orientation for society in our upcoming golden age. Men can do the male thing with their wives or significant others, but meanwhile, in general society, I'd love to see us all feeling free to be gender balanced, comfortable in expressing the male or female aspects of self. We all have both. Ladies, your body produces testosterone, so if you think it doesn't, get over it. Do the research. Let's give the self permission to express both. That's a good start. Anything we want to see in the world, we can begin by expressing in the self. Our internal changes really do count. They make a difference in the whole due to its fractal, its hologram nature. Your changes don't take any time to propagate out to the whole either. They do so instantly. So own it. Be empowered. Let's all realize that we're far more powerful than most of us yet know, probably all of us. It's a start. It's just as valuable to come to terms with something negative in the self as it is to be developing something positive. I'm going to say it again. It's just as valuable to come to terms with something negative in the self as it is to be developing something positive. These are two sides of the very same coin, and we'll find it foolish to emphasize only one side. Just as there are no one-sided coins, nor are there any one-sided beings here in 3D. We are all a combo of both light and dark. Now, actually, we've done the self a great disservice not to lovingly attend to the dark side of our being. We've been working hard trying to manifest all those one-sided coins, silly us. We didn't see how nonsensical it was, so some of us have been carrying on this way for any number of incarnations. What we do here to come into balance, will reflect its blessings out to those other lives too. It's all one, it's all now, it's all connected. Did you know that? Remember, if time is simultaneous, then that must mean you're living all of your lifetimes right now. Only now. There is nothing else. Back in 1492, it was just now, and in 2092, it will be just now. How can it be anything else? Actually, this empowers us. Take a look and see how it offers the potential to share traits and qualities across your various lifetimes, getting the best benefit from the whole. If there are currently undeveloped traits you'd like to have, there are ways to share across lifetimes, bringing it in from one where you've got that whatever it is already well developed. One of these ways is called quantum jumping. Another is practiced and taught by Anelia Benz, and I'm sure there are others. Let's let all the barriers down, my friends. Let's be open to the possible, which we can do by adopting the belief anything is possible. Now, that doesn't mean likely. I'm not preaching Pollyanna or Cinderella stuff here, but rather more practical ideas. If we have ourselves tied up in the knots and ropes of our beliefs, we are unnecessarily self-limiting. I'm counseling against that way of being. No matter what someone counsels us, is wise and a desirable way of being, if we don't first run that by heart and our inner self, then we do ourselves a disservice, besides giving some of our power away to just believe it. More and more, let us learn to place trust in the self. In order to do that wisely, some will say it's best or necessary to first develop the self. I see that slightly or largely differently, since I see this divine self as already existing. It needs to be found, uncovered, rather than developed, rather than sought after. Do you see? Your perfect self already exists. It's a matter of discovering that. See how simultaneous time supports this pre-existence of the perfected self. If the only thing between you and that self is time, and time doesn't exist as something spread out across past, present, and future, then that self exists right now. It becomes rather a matter of accessing that than an exercise in developing or molding it. It's being, not becoming. All that likely stands in our way is our outdated beliefs in the linear structure of time. We think we're subject to that. We are not. By introducing the new belief, easily verifiable in quantum physics, in simultaneous time, these old beliefs can be brought up and removed, thus further empowering the desired change in us. Remember, introducing a new, favorable belief is the best way to gain quick access to your hidden, self-limiting beliefs, tucked away as they are in the subconscious mind. Okay, perhaps you've noticed a different use of language in this journal. Maybe it seems more mind-oriented. As I'm watching things, I suspect that I've somehow given myself permission to be all of myself, including the mind, rather than being so on guard against it. Since I don't know yet about the plus and minus sides of this, I welcome comments about what you're seeing. They may help me sharpen my view. I don't mean to sound at all stilted or anything. That's not my aim. Once again, I'm just going with the flow here, just noticing that it seems different and not knowing what gives or why. I'm not looking for value judgments, just what your heart tells you about what you perceive. Do you feel the heart flow as much here, for instance? We're all quite perfect, my friends, just not in our avatars, not in our 3D manifestation. Or rather, that too is quite perfect, just not in 3D mental terms. In 3D, we tend to judge and be linear, and that's not found in higher consciousness nor in heart. It's just not there. Instead, when in higher consciousness, we will simply observe while staying strictly in the now. It won't be that this or that is right or wrong, but rather, this is what I see, this is what I feel, that sort of thing. Mind believes in the story, endless stories. Heart knows better. Yet, mind is so blooming used to being in control, and it finds giving control over terribly difficult. I'm working toward a peaceful, cooperative existence here, rather than one aspect of being dominating another, a la 3D. Blessings, friends, in all your endeavors. Remember effortlessness and joy in all you think, do, and say. This can be as joyful a ride as we choose to make it, regardless of what comes our way. Let's choose to be empowered and not minimized. And that's a great goal. And anytime we lose sight of love, of unconditional love, we can know we're wide of our goal. Love is always the bottom line, and the top line, and the middle line, etc. Namaste.